On today's episode, I'm introducing you to one of the most fun, loving, inspiring, creative people I know. Jeanette is not only a wife, but she's an author, she's a fashion blogger, and she has such a powerful perspective on how God created us to be creative, especially when it comes to expressing ourselves in fashion. A little bit later on in the hour, we are going to get into her closet. She's going to show us how to put together the basics of a wardrobe. You don't want to miss this inspiring episode of the Authentic Living Show. Hey guys, Courtney Shaw back here with Jeanette Johnson. She's an author, she's a fashion blogger, and she is an overall powerhouse. I'm so excited to sit down today and just have some girl talk. I actually get to call her one of my closest friends. We always have amazing talks when it comes to just the creativity and having an awe and a healthy wonder of God. And so Jeanette, it's so good to be with you today.
Yes, thank you.
You look gorgeous as always.
You do too.
Popping in that pink. Thank you for inviting us into your lovely home.
We're both rocking the jumpsuits today too.
I know, right? Listen, I knew when I was going to meet with you today, I'm like, I got to step outside of my comfort zone. Because when I think of you in fashion and creative expression, there's nothing vanilla about it, right? Like, I just love that you mix and match things and you put things together that you would never even have the courage to put together, but you make it work. And I really feel like that is such a gift from God.
I was just going to say, I feel like I've been blessed with this gift to just look at fashion as there's just no wrong answers and just to try anything once. I don't know. I feel very free to just, I don't know, experiment and put things out there. And I feel like that's where you really actually look and feel your best. It's just outside your comfort zone and you discover things you never would have thought you loved before. And so I just have a really good time with it.
And it's so evident. I mean, if you scroll on your social media, your blogs, I mean, everything is just popping with vivid colors and textures and patterns. And it just, I think when I think of a word that would describe you, I think joy would be one of the words, because you exude so much joy. And again, I think life, just by nature of monotony and routine and responsibility and hardships, it can almost become monotonous or even a drudgery. And I don't really believe that when God created this beautiful earth, right, He intended us for us just to go through the motions and live a muted life. So when did your fashion journey begin?
Oh my goodness. So what's really cool about my story is that I'm such the unlikely person to be sitting here talking about fashion with you. I grew up in Kansas farmland.
My Kansas girl.
And I really just didn't have any sort of sense of fashion or had it around me at all growing up. And I kind of got this impression, I grew up, in the church, went to a private Christian high school, that it just wasn't something that we focused on, right? It wasn't that it was bad, but it just was kind of not something we really spent our time and money on. And so I had no idea I liked it. And then I entered my 20s, I had moved to Boston, I was working a professional job, and I often felt like I was totally underdressed or dressed inappropriately. I actually set a clothing budget to get myself to spend money on clothes because I thought I really need to do some work in this area of my life and I have the money, I'm gonna set it aside every month. And when I started to do that, I thought, what is happening to my life? I was having so much fun. So it was only a couple short years later that I started a blog, really from the perspective of, hey, I don't really know what I'm doing with clothes. I'm new to this. I'm willing to try anything. Won't it be fun to share this journey with other people? Truly, you have to be like, that wasn't me. That was God, because there's just no other explanation. It's such a funny story. But in a lot of ways it makes sense because I think a lot of women don't feel like they know what they're doing necessarily either. And I still feel that way a little bit. I'm doing campaigns for Macy's and Nordstrom and JCPenney all the time, but I do it from that perspective of like, I'm somebody shopping in this store with all these options. What am I going to put together? And I do my best. And sometimes it comes out great. And sometimes I'm a little bit less than happy with it, but I post it anyway because I'm like, there's always tomorrow, as I told
right.
someone once who didn't like my outfit. I said, show up tomorrow, it'll be different, and we can all move on.
I think a lot of women deal with this overwhelming sense of pressure. Not everybody has that gift or that passion for fashion. I think a lot about my mom. My mom is an amazing shopper, and she finds the most phenomenal things, but she's patient to go through the process and pull things together. I've always been a mission shopper. I'm like, I love and enjoy fashion, but I'm a woman on a mission, so time is precious, right? So I want to go in and find what I want, put the things together, and I'm out the door. But a lot of times it's hard to do that, and I love that you made it your mission to kind of go, hey ladies, I'm going to kind of take some of the stress out for you, and maybe even if it's just the top, here's the link to where you can get it, and here's the discount. So I'm like, hook a sister up, right? It was amazing.
So true, and it's so funny talking about this now because there are just so many blogs doing this, and I've loved to see this evolution of all these women getting out there, being brave enough to be vulnerable on social media. I think is an awesome way of utilizing this democracy of communication we've been gifted with. It could be used for good, it could be used for evil, and but it's been thrilling to watch that. And I think you touched on one of the types of guilt, and I feel like there's two at any given time. And what's interesting as women, and I touch on this in my book, is that we feel both often at the same time, which is just crazy. Like, it shouldn't even be allowed. And there's the guilt of, I'm not doing enough with fashion. I need to up my game. I need to wear more makeup. I need to be more colorful. And the other side is I'm doing too much.
Sure.
So that I'm overdressed at the playground with my kid and everyone's looking at me.
Stilettos.
or I'm, but this is what I want to wear. So, or in the grocery store, you're feeling overdressed, or you're at church and someone seems to be a little judgy about, how much money you've spent on your outfit.
In the church house? Never.
I know, right? Never. So it's, but it's, what's interesting is that even in the same given day, you could feel that way. You could go one place and feel guilt for not being enough, and then you go to the next place and you feel like you're too much. And so it's a really interesting balance, and something I think that the enemy gets a stronghold in a lot of times, and we don't even realize it because it's just so natural.
How have you been able to stay true and authentic to yourself and still fulfill your clients' needs as well?
Do we have 2 hours to unpack this question? Because I don't even know where to begin. Well, one of the things I'll say is that it was a really easy decision for me to go full-time blogging because I didn't have a choice. I got laid off from my job. I had no idea how I was going to pay my bills. I was about a year into blogging, and it was already, there was tons of people reading it, but I thought this will never be a career. I mean, what does that even look like? But I sat down, I thought, okay, I got a bridge job, which was 10 hours a week to pay just enough of my bills. It was a writing gig, so I could do it from home. And I thought, I'm just gonna give this a shot. And within a year, I was making 5 times what I had been as marketing manager.
Wow.
So at that point, I just went, I guess I'm doing this now. I mean, I was just sort of like, I couldn't find another job. This is making money and I love it. So it was a very weird, it wasn't like this decision I made that was very proactive. It felt very much like, well, I'm just kind of going with the flow here. And this was actually before sponsorships were a thing. So I wasn't working with any companies yet. It was all fully automated. It was all just by traffic is where the money was coming from. Just kind of your usual ways, because working with brands did not become a thing until a few years later.
The whole being an influencer is such a big thing right now.
That came about maybe more like 2014, 2015. And so that was an interesting transition into that. And that is predominantly now what we focus on more is the sponsorships. And so it's been interesting. But I think with any business, and a really good book I just read is Every Good Endeavor by Tim Keller, which talks about sort of the ethics of business and bringing that into your faith, no matter what it is, and how you can make decisions. And I thought, wow, I wish I'd read this 9 years ago. But also it was interesting because seeing different ways that with faith had made decisions ethically to not go down certain routes that we've seen social media go, and just kind of staying true to who you are, even if that meant the detriment of the company. Sure. Which is an interesting decision when it is your family's income.
And it's bread and butter. Yeah.
So, but ultimately, I always think, in the end, it'll pay off. So I don't really sweat those details.
What words of encouragement would you have for viewers that are watching today that have really felt torn and battled to have that full freedom and permission to express themselves?
Oh my goodness. Well, I would say really, honestly, one of the things that changed my journey was writing my first book, sitting down and asking those really, really tough questions. And just saying, what do I really think about this? And going to scriptures and saying, what does it really say about
what
this?
does God say?
What does it really say? It's about, setting aside the time to just get that straight for your life and get that. And realize that this is an area that everybody struggles with, because we just live in a broken world, and there's so much focus and emphasis on a woman's appearance. I mean, you just can't get around it. So I think a lot of times we try to just ignore it, or kind of, we think that that's like an active solution, right? It's just to say, oh, I'm just gonna ignore that stuff, or that's kind of what I was doing, I feel like, before. And, you know, just sort of being willing to say like, hey, I'm gonna look at this in my life, if not even for my own sake, but for the sake of the younger generations that are now watching us, right? So like getting those things straight for ourselves, whatever that looks like, would be my...
Absolutely. And so now I want to talk just from a church perspective, right? Because the church world is really interesting, as both you and I know, as being women that are kind of in the forefront in our different areas, and we're very vocal and expressive, and in the forefront. I mean, you think about how you dress yourself and your appearance and how you carry yourself, and sometimes you could feel like you're totally under the microscope.
It's difficult too, because the church, as you know, is such a wide and varied, it doesn't apply to everyone necessarily, but one of the things that's interesting about the way we approach fashion within religion or Christianity or whatever you want to call it, and even in some cases minimalism, they kind of, they want us to not focus so much on the outer appearance, but then they've sort of created this focus on the outer appearance of their own making. They're sort of just as obsessed with it, but in a different way. So they're modeling to us to keep being obsessed, but now to obsess about how short is my skirt? Are people gonna look at me? I mean, I think about walking into any church in America, probably the most nerve-wracking thing to know what to wear to like a new church. Like, say you're visiting a friend in another town, like you're wondering like, what am I like, that is very telling to me, that as women, that's probably the most nerve-wracking, at least for me it is, to know what to wear to any given church. And it's so different too, and that's the thing. But for me, it's about saying, you know, I'm not going to buy into either of these extremes, and I'm going to say like the freedom lies here, which is to just not be obsessed with outer appearance at all. This has been a lifelong journey, and it always will be, but learning to take your direction and your connection directly with God. I mean, that's why Jesus came. We can communicate with God directly. And I think so much about life is honestly sort of figuring out like, how do you tune out other people? And yes, that sometimes includes people in your own church.
Well, I want to talk to you a little bit too about getting unstuck, right? Because life is interesting. Life is tough. You know, but the Bible says very clearly that in this world we're going to have trouble. But he also tells us to be of good cheer because he's overcome the world. And I think to know that we have the overcomer living in us gives us hope, number one. But how can you get unstuck when it comes to just not being creative? And like you said, it may not be fashion. Maybe it's, you know, drawing or picking up art or getting out and enjoying nature.
I think that, you know, one of the things you touched on earlier that I wanted to expand upon is that to think about, you know, literally Genesis 1, what is God doing? He's creating. And when we step into a closet, in my opinion, we put something together, you've just created something which is among one of the most powerful things you can do. It's on a small scale, but think about starting a business, creating a human with your body. All of these things are literally what we're made to do, is to partner alongside God and help him bring society in the universe to help grow it. And that's one way we do that. It's one small way. But I think your question about getting unstuck is so good, because I know I've felt that before. I think that creativity is interesting. It really requires kind of two things that seem total opposites. And one of them is rigid discipline, which is setting aside time for it. And the other is completely suspending judgment. So when you're within that time for being creative, you've got to completely let go and just say anything, the sky's the limit. I recently started writing fiction and poetry, which is laughable to me. I can't even tell you. I literally said to friends, I don't know, I have real problems in my life. But during that creative time I had set aside, I thought to work on another creative project. That's what I found myself doing. And to be willing and open enough to say, oh, all right, you know, the ideas come to me, I'll try it. You know, I'll try anything. And what's interesting is the more you do that, the more you sort of let yourself play, the better you are at using creativity to answer real world questions like, how am I going to make money? Or what am I going to do next? What's my calling in life? All of those things that we need creativity for. How am I going to solve this problem? I mean, we truly, it sort of makes your brain more loosey-goosey, so then you're better at things later.
Well, you're more pliable, right? You're not so focused on performance and being driven by fear, but truly you're activating that faith. Well, we'll be back with much more from Jeanette Johnson. Don't go away. Hey guys, Courtney here, and I am back in the holy place. This is where it all goes down. I know Jeanette would love me calling it that. But listen, everybody and their mom wants to know what goes down in Jay's everyday closet. This is like every girl's paradise. So we're gonna have a little B-roll that we're gonna show you. But Jeanette, thank you for letting us into your creative space.
Thanks for being here.
It's absolutely inspiring. It's super organized, and I mean, the sky's the limit when it comes to creativity.
Yeah.
So let's start off by talking about creating a space for creativity. What inspired you for your closet?
Well, first of all, you already kind of touched on it, but it's like you want it to be a happy place. You want your closet to be spark joy, right? To use a popular phrase.
Conduit.
and not stress you out. So whatever that means for you, it doesn't have to be, to this level. This is also, to be fair, my office. So I went a little bit big with the decor and stuff, but I just wanted to create this feeling of just being happy to be here and not like, oh, I gotta go put something together and I have nothing to wear, but like truly just feeling inspired. And I think you can do that in small ways, no matter what your closet looks like, whether that means it's organized or you add a little bit something fun to it. I mean, the sky's the limit.
It really is. So where do you start when it comes to doing a consultation for a closet, right? And somebody comes in and they feel totally paralyzed. And I'm sure you hear this all the time, but this statement, I have nothing to wear.
Yes.
And yet there's clothes like falling out of the closet. It's everywhere. So what's a good starting point for just getting your space in order?
Yeah, so I mean, usually we just start taking things out of the closet and I'll ask a lot of questions. So why don't you wear this? Do you like it? Do you not like it? If it's something that doesn't fit or it's just really worn out, get rid of it. Take it out of the closet. If it's something that's worn out, you can actually start a list of things that like, oh, these black shoes are really scuffed up, but I wear black shoes a lot, so let me add that to the list. But a lot of times it's things that, oh, I love this, but I don't wear it.
Right.
Well, why is that? If it fits, if you love it, and usually it's because something's missing to go with it. If that means the right, bottoms to go with the top, or maybe it's just something simple. There's just something that's missing. They need a jacket for it. And so I usually have them start making a list of those types of things to complete the outfit. Because a lot of times we just sort of piecemeal it, right? We go in and we find things we're attracted to or we like. And so that way it's more like akin to shopping at a grocery store. You usually make a list before you go. I need these 3 ingredients to complete what I already have in my refrigerator. More often than not, we have things in our closet already, good ingredients. We just need kind of the things to fill in the rest.
Absolutely. So let's start with, just a simple staple piece in your wardrobe. We know about the little black dress, right?
Yes.
But today you are bringing the little white dress.
I'm bringing the little white dress because I love the color white. We talked though, you have little ones, so I know this is hard.
Yeah, I'm coming out of it, maybe, possibly, but there's always that room for like sticky hands or something, exploding,
Yeah, so I'm using white today because I love it, but I think any solid color dress, or just a solid color shirt with jeans, you can kind of picture it. But what we just wanted to illustrate, just a little fun something, is how different you can make one piece feel.
I love that.
In this first look, we're doing truly kind of a little bit rock and roll.
Because everybody needs a little rock and roll in their life.
Sometimes
a little country too.
Yeah, you can pass on it if you don't like it, but I will wear this with these little booties and like a leather jacket. So you've got just like a totally different take on this dress.
And I would have never thought to wear those shoes with that dress. I mean, this looks like your Easter Sunday dress, right? But you were totally rocking it out. But what holds it together is this really cool necklace. And one of the things that I love about you is you love accessories. And you love bold, funky, crazy. Like your earrings right now are amazing. I mean, they're just like eye candy, right? And they bring so much joy. And you can pull so many things from that just one accessory because there's so many different colors.
So that's actually how I got started in accessories and loving them so much, because it's been a lifelong thing with me ever since I started experimenting with fashion, is that it's really a budget strategy. Because if you get your staple pieces that you love, you can rewear the same things over and over again if you just switch up the accessories.
That's
and a lot of times you can find things that are actually really affordable, but they are statement pieces and they change the look so much that then, it's a great strategy for maximizing your closets. Yeah, and so then I've got this little jacket, which is more like what you said, wearing it to church.
It's your first lady special.
It's my Jackie O jacket. And I actually got this secondhand too, and it's one of my favorite things I've ever gotten. And then, your little nude shoes instead of the black. So this is such a different personality to this dress, and yet both of them work.
Talk to us a little bit about maybe one tip that you would give our viewers today that they feel overwhelmed, they feel frustrated. What is that first space that they should start organizing in their closet?
Well, I mean, the whole thing needs an overhaul, but this is the thing. We think like, oh, you're giving me homework, I have to go fix up my closet, but you're gonna create so much like mental clarity, and like all that clutter is gonna be gone, that all those times you experience your closet after that are gonna be so much more joyful. So in the beginning, I feel that way sometimes. I'm like, oh, I have to clean, and not that fun, but it winds up being so beneficial and so amazing that it really is not that bad of homework, I promise. The other tip is to set aside those times where you are feeling creative, whether that's, I'm more of a night owl, so I do better at night than trying to come up with stuff in the morning. If I spend some time coming up with different outfits, sometimes they're even totally out of season. I'll just take pictures with my cell phone and remember them for later. In times that I'm feeling inspired, I might have a day where I'm just like, oh, I'm really into this, and I'm thinking about clothes, and because I don't always think about clothes. I think about it sometimes, and I get all of my creative work done, and then I reap the benefits for weeks afterwards. And that's really kind of the method I try to teach people, is just set aside time, whatever that looks like for you. It's almost like meal planning, like we talked about. Yeah. Meal planning is so popular. Let's do some outfit planning. Let's go in, get your ingredients set in your closet, make it a happier place and not so chaotic, and no judgment if it is, because I totally understand. And just start planning things out.
Well, and I think it's that intentionality, right? That's with anything, whether it's your food, whether it's your clothes, and it takes out the stress and the anxiety, because there's nothing more stressful in the morning when you're running out the house trying to get ready and going, oh my gosh, what am I gonna wear? And you get to that point of feeling stuck.
Yeah.
But there's nothing more fulfilling when you know what you're gonna wear, you feel confident, you feel good, and you can go out and do what God has called and created you to do for that day. Well, Jeanette, how can our listeners stay in touch with you and get inspired through your blog and through some of your social media?
Well, it's super easy. It's all the same everywhere. It's JS Everyday Fashion, whether you're on Instagram or Facebook or the URL. So hit me up. I'm easy to get in touch. I'm easy to find. So
you are bright and colorful, and it's like
true.
flashing lights. We can find you on social media. Well, I'm just so grateful for you and your friendship, and you inspire me in so many ways, not just when it comes to fashion, but through, writing and living outside of your comfort zone, because that's where true adventure and creativity is expressed. Well, Jeanette, thank you for an awesome Girls' Day. It's been so much fun. Well, make sure to follow Jeanette on her Instagram and her Facebook page. We'll have all the links up at the end of the show. It's time for you to get outside of the box and live creative in your authentic life.